Kristin Cabot just made even more headlines today as the text messages between her and astronomer CEO Andy Byron have been leaked, revealing the aftermath and their fallout following the Coldplay kiss cam. After the incident, she was forced to resign as HR chair of the company, and since then had been fairly quiet up until today, when apparent leaked messages between her and Andy Byron were circulating the internet. The contents of these messages were shocking to many viewers and gave insight into the pair's complicated relationship. Stay tuned as we go over the messages and do a full analysis of Andy Byron and Kristin Cabot's tumultuous relationship that broke not only the internet, but entire families. Mornings after are never about coffee. They're about notifications. Kristin woke to a grid of red badges and a rhythm in her chest that wouldn't slow down. She typed, deleted, typed again, then settled on something plain. "Are you okay?" No reply. Andy stared at his own barrage, texts marked urgent, meetings tagged quick, and a calendar that looked like a game board where every square was a trap. Down the hall at home, the quiet was louder than any headline. Morgan moved through the kitchen with that strained calm that suggests the real conversation hasn't started because the real words haven't formed. Andy reached for explanation, then stopped. Explanations are stories, and stories become exhibits. At noon, an email arrived from the board, a check-in. Polite in tone, precise in subtext. Kristin received a similar note from legal, a reminder of policies she had helped draft. The day's oxygen narrowed into sentences that sounded like they had been written by a committee, because they had. And the internet, impatient with corporate time, had already rendered judgment. The crowd doesn't do due process. It does dopamine. Clips became compilations. Compilations became commentary. Commentary became certainty. Strangers became experts in micro-expressions, and editors with too much time stitched reaction reels until the moment felt bigger than the stadium that birthed it. Some thought Kristin looked amused. Others said terrified. Some swore Andy mouthed a name. Others insisted it was nothing at all. And it didn't matter, because arguments online don't seek truth. They seek traction. Astronomer trended under tags that had nothing to do with products and everything to do with perception. Investors pinged account reps. Candidates ghosted recruiters. Customers asked if stability was still part of the package. Kristin had spent years explaining to managers that power complicates consent, that reporting lines turn shades of gray into lines of red. She could recite every clause about conflicts, favoritism, and workplace safety because she had lobbied to put them there. Now the policy stared back at its author. If two leaders were entangled, optics alone could bruise culture. If one influenced the other's compensation or access, policy graduated from suggestion to shield. Kristin knew how this would be read by people who had sat through her trainings. She also knew the only thing worse than silence is defensiveness. Andy, for his part, understood that CEOs don't just answer for what happened, they answer for what it looks like happened. Somewhere between intention and perception lives the territory where careers go to break. Legal wanted facts, PR wanted air, employees wanted reassurance, the board wanted a future. Everyone wanted time. Nobody had it. And in that pressure cooker, the handbook became both map and minefield, a document that could either save them or sentence them, depending on where the next step landed. But the next step wasn't theirs to make. As for the leaked text messages, an anonymous user posted the alleged transcripts to X, and they were shocking. Kristin typed first. Simple, sharp lines that tried to slow a runaway day. "We need one story. Tonight." She reminded Andy that silence is a story too, and the crowd had already chosen an ending. He answered, quote, "Meetings, counsel, no more texts." She pushed back. She said she had stood beside him when the lights found them. She said she had kept calendars tidy and whispers quieter. She said she would not be the only headline. He offered a draft. Neutral words, process words, words that sound safe and feel empty. She wanted a plan with names and verbs. Step back from each other. Step back from work. One sentence. Human. Clear. He said the board preferred process to poetry. She said the handbook would not save her if the timing looked wrong. The messages didn't prove anyone right. They only proved the cost of waiting. Morning turned noon, and the tone cooled. Andy wrote that leave was, quote, recommended. He used the board's phrase, clean perimeter. Kristin asked if clean meant both of them. He didn't answer fast. She told him she could carry heat. She would not carry his and hers. He said no one had asked her to. She said not in writing. Hours slid. He typed that an exit was coming. She asked if he meant alone. He said it was the only way the company would breathe. She told him to say so out loud. She told him not to let silence write her part. He promised a 5 o'clock statement, stepping aside. She said she would follow, at a different hour, with a different verb, not a shadow. He added a line about the team and customers. She added one about policies and fairness. He wrote, noted, and the thread went quiet for the first time all day. At 5, the company post landed. Bylines moved, feeds shifted. Kristin sent one more line. Breathe. He wrote back that he was working on it. She said next time the crowd would not tell their story. He said next time there isn't one. The phone went dark. The room stayed loud. And the board, now holding the only clock that mattered, turned the page. After roughly 48 to 72 hours of saturation on social platforms and aggregation sites, the corporate side began to ossify into public statements. Axios reported that astronomer had placed Byron and Cabot on leave pending a board investigation, while naming co-founder Pete DeJoy as interim CEO. Soon after, astronomer confirmed that Andy Byron resigned, moving the story from online curiosity to concrete governance change. Reuters placed the resignation in the evening of July 19th, UTC timing, and television online news, e.g. CBS News, carried the company's statement that the board had launched an inquiry following the concert footage. These reports are crucial because they establish what's verified at the company level. 1. The board's involvement. 2. An internal process. 3. The acceptance of a CEO's resignation. And 4. An interim leadership plan. None of these steps on their face assign personal blame. They are standard corporate risk and reputation management procedures when executives become the center of a viral controversy with potential workplace policy implications. The speed of these moves, days not weeks, speaks to how rapidly social exposure can compress decision timelines for modern companies. By July 24-25, coverage widened beyond the CEO exit to the HR side of the org chart. Associated Press wire copy and ABC News pieces reported that Kristin Cabot resigned following the viral incident. AP's wording is notably careful. The video showed her embracing the CEO at the concert. The moment went viral. The company confirmed her departure, and memes followed. This restraint matters. Newsrooms with standards can describe a visual fact, an embrace on a jumbotron, and a corporate fact, a resignation, without asserting unverified personal narratives. Meanwhile, culture outlets and social accounts turned the clip into a trending fixture, spawning edits, reaction videos, and low-context commentary. But the higher credibility reporting kept returning to the same limited verified core: a stadium moment, 2 identifiable executives, and sequential leadership changes. When writing for YouTube, the safest way to frame this is to acknowledge the meme ecosystem without laundering unverified claims through it. The distinction between what people are saying online and what the record confirms is your compliance backbone and the audience's trust anchor. Then came the plot twist few would have bet on. Gwyneth Paltrow appears in a 1-minute astronomer video as a temporary spokesperson, responding deadpan to frequently asked questions, while neatly redirecting curiosity toward what astronomer actually sells. Data workflow automation around Apache Airflow. The company posted the clip on its verified X account at 11:39 p.m. Eastern Time on July 25, 2025. With the caption, "Thank you for your interest in astronomer." The post's public view counter soared, tens of millions, and mainstream outlets across the spectrum, The Washington Post, TechCrunch, Business Insider, The Wrap, Fox Business, and more, covered the gambit as a savvy bit of narrative judo, playing on Paltrow's cultural connection, her prior marriage to Coldplay's Chris Martin, without relitigating the stadium moment itself. The significance here isn't celebrity stunt casting for its own sake. It's that astronomer finally owned the frame. Instead of an endless loop of kiss cam clips, the most shareable fresh asset became their video, delivering their talking points, with just enough meta-humor to signal self-awareness and just enough product language to recenter on the business. For a company battered by attention it didn't choose, that shift is meaningful. With Byron out and Cabot gone, audiences naturally ask, who's in charge? Astronomers' communications and subsequent coverage point to co-founder Pete DeJoy serving as interim CEO, while the board searches for a permanent replacement. That detail is reflected both in news coverage and on Astronomer's own leadership page, which lists Pete DeJoy as CEO alongside other C-suite roles. This is another instance where wording matters. Interim language in early reports can change as the company updates governance and websites. The safest approach is to anchor to time-stamped sources and the company's current About Leadership page at the time of writing. For audiences unfamiliar with Astronomer, it's also worth a one-sentence explainer that the company builds data orchestration tooling around Apache Airflow, open source, for enterprise workflows. Useful context for why pipelines, scheduling, and governance matter in their marketing copy. The headline here: the company moved to an interim leader quickly, signaling continuity to customers and partners, while PR and legal work to stabilize the narrative. Here's what the record supports as of July 27, 2025 CDT. There was a July 16th stadium kiss cam moment showing Byron and Cabot in an embrace. The clip went viral. Astronomer announced a board investigation. Andy Byron resigned. Kristin Cabot resigned. Pete DeJoy stepped in as interim CEO. Astronomer published a Gwyneth Paltrow video to reframe attention. That's it. Notice what's not verified by credible outlets. Purported leaked text messages, alleged hush PR payments, claims about internal staff discipline unrelated to public filings, alleged threats, pregnancy insinuations or multi-party affairs, lawsuits against artists or venues, high-standard coverage, AP, ABC, CBS, Reuters, Washington Post, TechCrunch, Business Insider, does not carry those claims, and Astronomer's own messaging steers away from private details. That doesn't mean rumors don't exist online, it means they lack the corroboration required for you to present them as facts. In YouTube scripting, the reliable path is to separate the rumor mill from the public record. You can acknowledge that rumors circulated without repeating specifics, and you should emphasize that no reputable outlet has verified those allegations at the time of publication. It keeps your channel compliant, trustworthy, and far more defensible. When a CEO and a senior HR leader are thrust into a viral clip together, the perceived risk to the company spikes across multiple fronts: conflicts of interest, reporting lines, fiduciary duty optics, employee confidence, recruiting, customer trust, and, even if nothing unlawful occurred, brand reputation. The playbook is unsurprising. The board asserts control, internal review, investigation, isolates potential conflicts, leaves, communicates a narrow set of facts, we're looking into it, interim leadership appointed, and avoids speculating on personal matters. If departures follow, statements stick to roles and transitions, not salacious summaries. In parallel, PR teams look for ways to reset the frame, ideally with a single highly shareable asset that answers, what does this company do and why should I care? Astronomer's Paltrow spot fits that brief. It uses a cultural bridge to redirect attention to product value without litigating private life. None of this tells you what happened between the two executives, nor should it. It tells you how a company limits collateral damage and sets conditions for recovery while legal and HR work in the background. As viewers, the clean line is this: governance moves are public facts, personal narratives remain private unless disclosed by the parties or documented in filings. Clarity on dates protects you from misinformation. July 16, 2025, the Coldplay concert at Gillette Stadium where the kiss cam moment occurred. July 18th through 19th, reporting of leave/investigation and Andy Byron's resignation becomes public. Reuters timestamps July 19th UTC, U.S. outlets follow. July 24th through 25, coverage notes Kristin Cabot's resignation with AP and ABC anchoring the wording. July 25 late, Astronomer posts the Gwyneth Paltrow temporary spokesperson video on X with the "Thank you for your interest" caption, which major outlets then cover through July 26 through 27. As of Sunday, July 27, 2025, America/Chicago, the public record shows both executives have resigned and Pete DeJoy is filling the CEO role while the board searches for a permanent leader. If that timeline shifts, it will do so via fresh company statements, SEC filings, if any are required for investors, or additional on-record reporting. For your video, lock your narration to these dates, state them plainly, and avoid relative terms like yesterday or last night, which will age your upload within hours. The astronomer story is a case study in how a seconds-long crowd camera gag can become a full-blown governance event in the age of real-time virality. The knowns are straightforward: a public embrace caught on a jumbotron, a torrent of online attention, a board investigation, a CEO resignation, a head of people resignation, an interim CEO, and an unusual but effective PR pivot that reframed the conversation. The unknowns remain where they belong, in the private lives of the people involved and within confidential HR legal processes that reputable outlets have not exposed. For your audience, the value isn't in repeating gossip, it's in narrating how the media cycle works, how boards act under pressure, and how a company can, sometimes, turn an unchosen spotlight into a brand moment that actually explains what it sells. End with smart questions that keep viewers thinking rather than alleging. Do you think companies should comment on executives' private lives when a video goes viral? Was astronomers' Paltrow move clever marketing or a risky distraction?